gang is mostly all here. So Kelly, go ahead and start the recording. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It is 11:17 on February 14th, 2024, and I'm Barbara Neal. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded and the recording will be posted on the task force webpage following the meeting. So let's start with our usual roll call of task force members. Please verbally acknowledge your presence when I call your name. Jen Morrison.
It looks like she had to drop off.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll circle back if we see her come back on. So I will go, Paul, I see you just joined us. We've just called the meeting to order and we're going through the roll call, and you're next, Paul White.
I am here.
Okay, good morning. All right, Michael Wright.
I am here.
Okay, Mike Dunges.
I am here.
Morning. Ron Kumitz.
Ron is muted.
Ron
Oh, I'm
is-
here. I'm here.
There he is.
I'm at-
Yep. Good morning, Ron. Jim Mack.
Morning.
I'm
Good-
here.
Morning, Jim. Okay, and did the commissioner make it back
I
on
am
the
here.
call? Okay, good
I'm
morning.
here.
All right, Jen, thank you. Okay,
I'm
so
just here by phone, apparently.
okay, we are all accounted for here. Also joining us is Callie Audette as our administrative support, and our project management partners, Rick and Dom from Televate. Good morning, everybody. And we also have several members of the public with us. So I'll call your name and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and any affiliation that you would care to share. So going down my list, we have a phone number ending in 9517. Stephen Whitaker, I think that's you, correct?
Nope, that's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
All right. I also have an unknown user. Stephen, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay, I believe that's you then. Welcome. All right, Kim Cheney.
Good morning. If this is working,
Kim,
It was working, but you muted yourself shortly into your conversation.
Right.
sorry. I wanted to give my thanks to my former colleagues at Televate with whom I worked happily before, and look forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Likewise.
Thank you.
All right, Richard Townend.
Richard Townend with Altaris Technology Partners.
Good morning. Senator Renner.
Hi, everyone. Senator Irene Renner from Chittenden North District.
Nice to have you join us. Did I miss anyone else from the public that's on the line? Okay, great. Hearing nothing, let's move on to approval of the agenda. So the agenda was distributed to task force members by email. It's also available on our webpage. I have one change to the agenda, which is to remove the executive session agenda item. I don't believe that we will need one today. I do have an update, but it can be shared publicly. Any other changes to the agenda from task force members? Okay, I'll make a motion then that we amend the agenda to remove the executive session agenda item. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of changing the agenda as noted, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, I hear Jen, I hear Ron, and I see Jim, Mike, Paul, and myself, and Michael voting to approve that change. So let's move on to approval of the minutes from January 31st, 2024. That was regular meeting number 18. Are there any changes needed to those minutes? All right, hearing nothing. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a
approve?
So
motion to
moved.
accept.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes of January 31st, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I hear Jen,
Aye.
I hear Ron, and I see hands from all other task force members. Thank you. Okay, moving on to project status update. I have an update, then I'll hand it over to Jen, and then we'll get an update from Televate as well. So I wanted to let everybody know that the system planning draft contract was sent to the vendor on Monday, and we are awaiting their response. So that is that up. And Jen, you wanted to speak a little bit, I think, to the status reports and where we stand with that.
Indeed. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry that I can't be there on camera. Apparently, the Wi-Fi is not sufficient here where I am trying to work. We have been, Barb and I have been receiving weekly status reports verbally with Televate as we have been rapidly changing the priorities as they have unfolded. But we have received a draft written weekly status report that we would like to share with the task force to comment on form, content, make sure that this draft that they have put together meets the needs of the task force. And then we will develop a distribution methodology to receive those reports, review them, and then put them on our website for the general public to be able to look at them as well. So I had intended to share that with you, but I can't do it from my phone. So I might have to rely on Dom or Rick to either share screen or post it in the chat. And again, the purpose of it is for folks on the task force to provide feedback if this is what they envision for form and content for feedback on a weekly basis. And so that is what I have to say about the weekly status reports. And not being able to see the agenda. Barb, what else are we talking about?
Okay, I think, well, what we'll do now, I think, is hand it over to Rick and Dom. Are you able to share that?
Yes,
screen?
I can share
Okay.
that.
All right, if you want to walk us through that and any other updates that you're prepared to give today, the floor is yours.
Can I request an emailed copy? Because I don't have visual here. I just have telephone.
I don't know that I have an emailed copy of this.
I think Jen
You
said
should.
she did.
Do I? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes, Stephen, I'll forward that to you now. Go ahead, Dom.
All right, thank you. As Jen mentioned, we have drafted a status report, put together an initial format, and looking for feedback from the task force members as to whether or not this format meets their needs or if there are any additions or changes. So you can see that we initially identify the activities accomplished from the last period, and also planned activities for the coming period. So you'll see the work we have been involved in, as Jen mentioned, supporting evaluation of system planning, vendor proposals, and provided input on the statement of work and the schedule for the draft contract. We are currently working on a preliminary schedule. We have a draft of the schedule with a moderate amount of detail right now. We have incorporated the dates that have been proposed in the system planning vendor contract into our schedule. And we are waiting for confirmation from those to finalize that. That is similar to a project plan. We have a draft project plan covering the schedule and other items such as schedule control, scope control, communications, etc. We will integrate into that project plan input from the system planning vendor when they are on under contract and once they have initiated the project. So we won't publish a project plan until we've incorporated those changes. You'll see we have identified also an initial list of action items that we or the task force are currently working. Number two there, I can update that Televate now has access to the Vermont shared folder, so that has been accomplished. The other action items are in process, and we will report on those and update them certainly on a weekly basis. We have identified some initial potential risks as we see them, and certainly anyone on the project within the task force is capable and free to identify potential risks. We've identified these three that we will be working and monitoring initially, and we expect there'll be more that we add to this. And then we've also identified a section for what we call issues. So once a risk becomes a reality, it turns into an issue, and then we have to address it in that manner. So we have a table that we use for following that process as well. And that's the extent right now of the initial status update. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Questions, comments from task force members?
Just a quick question. I'm just curious, as risks transition to issues and then ultimately get resolved, is it the plan that they will continually stay on the list? So eventually this report could get lengthy, or once they're resolved, they will drop off the list and be archived?
Generally, the way we handle it, once they're resolved, they stay on for an additional period just to confirm, and then they're removed from the list, but archived at that time.
Okay, thank you.
And we take the same approach towards action items as well. So the next week, we'll put a gray line through the action item that's been closed. And then the following week, it would be removed. Now, and that's our general approach. And we could, as you indicated, it could get busy it'll get very busy over a project of this magnitude. And these action items are obviously are designed to represent all action items for every participant in the program. And so, leaving them on another week and indicating that this has been closed is a clean way to keep track. And then the archive will still have it on there, but what we've showed to you would remove it the week after, for the next session. If that works for you, that's our typical approach.
Yep. No, I like that. Thank you.
Certainly.
Okay, and I can't see everybody, so if there's any other task force members that have questions or comments, please speak up.
Barb, this document will be, is it going to be in our email, or is this going to be in this folder that is mentioned here that we'll have access to?
That's what we're asking. That's a little bit of what we wanted to ask you about today, is your feedback on the weekly status reports, not just the form and content, but do you prefer to receive it via email, or do you want to be notified that it's now in our shared drive, and once everybody's taken a peek at it, it will be posted publicly? I guess process is TBD on that.
Perfect, thank you.
I would think both. I think either sending it by email or sending us an email letting know that there's an update available so that we can go find it, either one.
Yeah, either way is fine, as long as there's some reminder that it's there.
Agreed.
Understood.
Would we post it publicly? At what point would it be posted publicly? After the task force has reviewed it, or is it public right from the get-go?
I don't see why
Also,
there'd
I
be
think-
anything sensitive. I mean, I would
No,
think it'd be
I'm
public
not
from the
suggesting
get-go.
there's anything
Okay.
I'm not suggesting there's anything sensitive, but it could be the case that a task force member would say, hey, what about we worked on this issue with you guys, if there was an omission or a correction to something.
Sure.
I don't have a particular preference. It could either be posted to the website right away, understanding that it could be a work in progress and changes could be made to it, or we could have the task force take a look at it and, give them 24 hours from the time we share it and then post it publicly. I think it should be up to the task force what they think best meets the need.
I think I like public as a draft, and then, presumably these will be reviewed at each task force meeting. And if changes are made, then it will just be adjusted. The public, all of the versions will be adjusted appropriately. Maybe once it's been reviewed at the task force, it's no longer labeled a draft, something like that, like the minutes kind of.
So may I just summarize what I think the process is? So we are
Yes.
going to prepare and release, say, I don't know, 48 hours, 48 hours prior to the next meeting, or more promptly than that. And then it'll have a draft watermark on it. It'll be emailed to the task force members, and then then it's reviewed during the session. And once agreed, then it would be posted as and remove the draft watermark.
That actually makes sense to have it be a draft and circulated and then approve the status report at each meeting. Although the cadence of meetings might prohibit that. If we only do meetings every other week, then we would end up with 2 to approve at a time. So maybe that's not the best method. Well, I don't want to spend too much time here. How about we talk offline and we figure out the system, and it could be as simple as we distribute it, 24 hours goes by. If we haven't received feedback, remove the watermark, post it publicly.
Okay, yeah, we sound good to everybody. Any objections from task force members to that? I don't think we need to vote on this. We'll just hammer out the details and. Okay. Any other?
Just for everyone's benefit, because we all know that we have we can get put in email jail if our files are too big. So this is about 130 kilobit file. It's not a large file. I expect over time they'll get a little bit larger, but it's never going to be a megabit file. It's always going to be a couple hundred kilobits. So it's not going to overload your inbox, but it is another inbox item that you're going to have to manage.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from task force members on the project status? Okay. I think we're ready to move on then to public comment. So if I could get an indication, if people wish to comment, Stephen, I'll assume that you do. Is there anybody else that wishes to offer a public comment today? Senator Renner, I see your hand. Kim, I see you. Okay. So why don't we try to limit our comments to, 3 to 4 minutes each, so that we're about within the 10-minute period, if we can. We'll be reasonable about that. And Senator Renner, let's start with you.
Thank you so much. I come to you today as both senator and a Vermont taxpayer. And forgive me, but I'm always a little wary of the ability of any expensive project to bear good fruit, especially because when I first began campaigning for this seat 2 years ago, someone at their front door said to me, if you get elected, please don't spend $500 million on a system that doesn't work. And my gut response was, you've got to be kidding me. Vermont doesn't have $500 million to spend on anything. And he said, well, Well, if I hadn't worked for the state, I wouldn't know about this, but indeed we did. There have been other systems projects that I've heard about since. $5 million to turn Valcor from a record system into a CAD dispatch system, which I haven't seen any evidence of whether it's serving the needs of our new subject matter experts or anyone else. There's a Lifeline system, which cost approximately $27 million and gets minimal use. Those were Homeland Security funds that could have gone to help small towns, and yet without proper plans in place, that money was essentially wasted because that system is nowhere near used as much as it should be for that amount of money. So I come also as someone who has dealt a little bit with regional dispatch in Chittenden County. There were many meetings in 2017 when I paid close attention to them, and eventually the plan went sideways. But along the way, I learned something about regional dispatch. I read a huge book called Principles of Emergency Medical Dispatch, so I could gain an appreciation for what those folks do for us. I put together a website that you can still reference, which shows some of the basic issues and challenges that the towns in Chittenden County faced standing up a system at that time. And underlying all those things, in high school, college, and in the business world, I use computers a lot, so I'm not afraid of them. I just don't want to see state or federal funds diverted to projects or vendors who aren't setting up a well thought out system. And I don't want to see a system design that is sole sourced out to a familiar face over a competent engineer. I followed the task force activity fairly closely, although I haven't had the chance to attend your meetings because oftentimes I'm in committee meetings of my own at the same time. But I was fortunate to be able to see the two co-chairs present to the Senate Finance Committee recently. After which I introduced an amendment last Friday on the Senate floor that suggested some course corrections to your current process. I won't go over any of that. You can bone up on it yourselves by watching the tape or looking up the legislation. But I did want to call your attention to the fact today that I am aware that the commissioner of the Agency of the Agency of Digital Services has deemed what's being done here as not information technology activities, and that concerns me. The definition of information technology activities includes such things as the design, construction, purchase, installation, maintenance, or operation of systems, including hardware, software, and services that perform or are contracted under Administrative Bulletin 3.5 to perform such activities. And directly beneath that statute, in 3 VSA section 3303, there are all kinds of stipulations for reporting requirements and independent reviews. Again, I won't go into the details, but I think it's very important that if the task force does nothing else, that you please consider affirming that what's being done here with $9 million and or $11 million of grant money in the case of the 9 million and general fund money in the case of the $11 million. If you could affirm that both of those are indeed encompassing information technology activities, I think that would go a long way to helping this process along. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Kim Cheney, let's go to you.
Thank you. First of all, I haven't met Senator Renner, but just hearing her speak, I think she has a lot of insight into the past and how this can be moved forward. I want to ask Dominic and Rick, as you know, my concern is local governance. And I didn't see anything in your outline talking about how you would structure local governance, which of course is the heart of any kind of system. And it's probably because I you've done so much in executive session. I have a very poor idea of what's been going on. But I hope you'll tend to the governance issue, and I hope the whole cost sharing issue between locals and state is going to be critical to any successful plan. And I trust, I don't know who's responsible for developing that, but I know Rick and Dom have been down this path before, so I'm hoping you'll get hold of it and move it along. Thank you.
Thank you
Can
very
I
much.
respond to that, Barb, or are you?
Yes, Dom, quickly, and then we'll go
Sure.
to Stephen.
I just wanted to thank him for the comments and clarify that development and recommendations of governance models is a major portion of this project, and that is part of the scope of the system planning vendor.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dominic.
Correct. Yep. Thank you. Okay, Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciated Barb's interpretation of how the weekly reports were going to be shared, and then it got skewed back to private until reviewed, and that needs to be revisited. That's a public document, even with the draft mark on it, and it should be sent out to all requesting subscribers on a routine basis, regardless of whether it has the draft watermark on it or not. There's no basis for withholding it for a day or a week until the next meeting. We'll be able to see the changes that are made when the draft mark comes off and it's adopted by as changed by the task force. That kind of thing slips, transparency slips all too easily. So I'm concerned looking at the document that Barb sent, thank you, but it really is sparse in that this project management plan was due January 12th, and it's over a month later, and we still only got an outline that doesn't begin to encompass the scope of this project. So I'm really concerned and then I'm concerned that the weekly updates are being done verbally only to the co-chairs. That's not what the contract says. And to have the co-chairs, intercept those on behalf of the task force rather than a document that we can see what's accomplished every week is really poor management. And it's the task force responsibility to be reviewing those reports every week. And so you're a month behind, and we don't have any documents of the last 4 weeks of work or 5 weeks of work. Status report, system draft contract, system planning draft contract. So yeah, there's some emails that were shared in the attempt to kill Senator Renner's amendment by the administration, by co-chair, emails generated by co-chair Morrison that basically revealed that they only got one bid for the systems analysis, systems planning, SPA, the SPA contract to review. It was referred to as an independent review, but it was in no way consistent or within the definition of an independent review in statute. And then that vendor declined to pursue the contract because it would preclude future bidding on the actual radio design work. But that scope of work for that SPA, strategic planning analysis, is the phrase I was looking for. That's what was on the RFP that Commissioner Morrison told the GovOps committee didn't exist the day after it was issued. So that has overlap with the system, the SME contract, which does propagation analysis of the LMR radio. So this is a cluster screw of overlap and mismanagement because one side is under this purview of the task force and one side is not. The 11 million is under the purview of the task force. The 9 million at this point is not. Although the language that has passed both bodies, House and Senate, but has not been reconciled in conference committee, does give the task force an ongoing role of updates in the planning for the system planning for the 9 million congressionally directed spending. So y'all are going to have to come up to speed quickly, and it's unclear to me how you're going to determine whether the 9 million is being spent in support of a statewide transition to statewide regional emergency communications. Because to me, a lot of the projects look like just more of the same. Public safety spending 27 million on, a lifeline system that the locals don't use, and or gold plating their internal systems. So I believe that y'all are going to need to find a way to verify that indeed that's part of the regional system, but it creates the other problem of supplanting, which was the subject of another memo Commissioner Morrison sent to try to kill Renner's amendment, that if federal funds are spent, they cannot be spent on anything that would have been supplanting state funds. And to the degree we've got 11 million there waiting to be spent on regional dispatch communications, virtually anything that the department is arguing could be spent to support a transition to statewide regional emergency communications is potentially supplanting the 11 million and is therefore disallowed under the federal rules. So you got a real conundrum on your hands here that I don't see anybody wrestling with. The delay in getting, and the conflicts in getting the project manager on board, and the track record of this project manager, which I have said, and I've been denied an answer of was due diligence done on the failures of this vendor, this project manager, in both the FirstNet evaluation and the Central Vermont contract evaluation. This task force is responsible for doing that due diligence. You just can't take Jen's word that she did it or she didn't do it. This task force is responsible for that due diligence, and I would encourage you to step up. So y'all are the oversight, like it or not, of, in effect, both the 9 million and the 11 million. And you got a lot of work to do to catch up and hold these folks accountable, because the amendment that failed would have increased the task force by 4 members and would have allowed the task force to elect its own chair instead of being led around by co-chairs that think they can solely hear the weekly updates verbally so that there's no paper trail. That's just an abuse that needs to stop. I'll stop there.
All right, then. Thank you, Stephen. I believe we can move on to new business unless there are any other public comments. Anyone else wishing to comment? Okay. Do task force members have any new business for today?
Barb, I have an item of new business.
Okay,
And I'm going to
go
have to
ahead.
be somewhat brief because I have to
Yes.
jump on to another thing at noon. Under new business, I wanted to alert task force members that we will be seeking to distribute an updated plan for the proposed expenditure of the $9 million in congressionally directed spending. We anticipate sharing that next week. I know Monday's a holiday, but we're looking to do that on perhaps by Tuesday. We're going to ask for your feedback and discussion. We will take it up as an agenda item at the next meeting. But I wanted to alert task force members that that will be coming your way and looking forward to your input, regardless of whether or not it's statutorily mandated.
Okay, good. Any other new business from task force members? All right, Kim, I see you've raised your hand. Do you have something you'd like to add?
And no, I'm trying to figure out how to lower it.
Okay, just thought I would check in. All right.
Thanks for asking.
Sure thing. Okay. Moving on then, and I know, Commissioner Morrison, you may have to drop off here pretty soon, so, thank you for your input this morning, and let's move on to setting the next meeting date, and, then we'll adjourn. So Callie had to remind me of this morning, but quite a long while ago, the task force determined that we should have regular meetings every other Wednesday at 11:15. We had a lot of other things that came up in the meantime, so we didn't officially start that until sometime in December. And we decided then that we would book out four regularly scheduled meetings in that, twice every other week cadence, which brings us to today. So I've got I propose that we continue to have meetings every other week on Wednesdays at 11:15 and add special meetings as needed. For example, next week, we will likely need a special meeting. One might be to discuss the information that Commissioner Morrison just mentioned on the congressionally directed spending information. And the other could be potentially additional information from the system planning vendor. We may have made progress in the contract negotiation. I don't know for certain, but we may be at a point where there's some action that needs to be taken by the task force. So I propose we ask Callie to set up recurring meetings every 2 weeks, and that you hold space on your calendar for next week. We'll schedule this special meeting on Tuesday, should we need it. Does that work for everyone? Okay. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, Tuesday might be a little tough for me, but I'll try to be as flexible as possible. That's the only. I'm good with the regular scheduled meetings. The Tuesday one might be a little tough, but we'll figure it out.
Okay. Well, I think what we would probably do is schedule a special meeting for Wednesday morning, because we need to give the 24-hour notice. So we'll see where we are Tuesday morning and schedule it if we can. So, or if we need to, rather. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. I think that's it for today. Unless anybody has anything else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, I see Ron's hand is up, or voice was heard, and all other hands are up. And we are adjourned for today. Maybe we'll see you next week, if not the week beyond that, for sure. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll be in touch. Thanks to Televate for joining us, and thanks to our guests for joining us as well. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Bye now.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.